thank you all for coming today. We started doing this a couple of years ago, a mock accident during prom. The past couple years with COVID, we haven't been able to do it again, but we're really excited to be able to bring this back. Purpose of this today is just to bring awareness that your decisions have consequences. Okay, it's supposed to be a fun week, but it can also turn very serious very quickly. Okay, so let me set the backstory. We want this to be as realistic as possible, but it's not going to be everything happening at once this year. We're going to break it up a little bit so that usually PD is the first ones on scene because they're out and about more than fire or ambulances. So Officer Ray Hennon is going to get here first. We're going to let him go through his scenario. When he's done, then we're going to transition to the ambulance, let them go through their scenario, and then finally fire department. Okay? But like I said, in real life, all this would be happening simultaneously, but when we did it a couple years ago, it got really overwhelming with a lot of stuff going on at once, and you missed a lot of the conversations that were happening. So we're going to do our best to make it as realistic as possible. Just understand that the timeline isn't going to be as accurate as it normally would be. Okay, so as you can see, our scenario this year is a car passed a school bus with its stop sign and lights out. Hallie and Caroline were out on a school break. Unfortunately, they chose to use some marijuana. So they got a little too high and lost track of time and were late getting back to school for practice. Okay? Coming down the road, they noticed the school bus was stopped. Stop sign was out, lights were on, but due to fear of being late for practice and the repercussions of that during prom week, Caroline told Hallie to just pass the bus. So she did. As a result, we have 3 victims that are laying here and 1 is trapped underneath the car. Okay? So, we're going to go through this, and then at the end we'll say a few extra words and let you get back to class.
We just hit a bunch of kids. What's going on?
Go start.
I made a mistake.
Have you called 911?
No.
Are you okay? This is TJ, the fire department driving bus for the city for the public school. We had a white vehicle pass me when I was dropping kids off, and it looks like we had four people hit, and one's still stuck on the vehicle. Yes. One of them is. Nobody on the bus is injured. I do have 2 young gals here, 2 that were driving.
Hey, you were the one that was driving.
They were in the vehicle driving. Give me a verdict arena. That's a great question. Yes. This just happened. No. Yes. This is TJ Kurtz. 628 of 82. Okay, thank you. Are you okay? What happened? You broke your knee? Can you just stay still? Can you lay down? Just lay down there and keep your head straight, please. Who are the other kids that are with you here? Do you know who they are? Are you okay? What happened? You broke your neck. Can you move? Can you feel your fingers? No? Just keep still. We got an emergency coming. Personnel coming. Are you okay? Can you each go talk to one of these people so we can keep them calm and answer? Where are you hurt? Where is it hurt? Where? Your neck right here. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Your leg, are you able to move? Or you can't move? Okay, where you are. Sir, ma'am, you okay? Here's where you want to put your bathroom. Yeah, stay on the seat, okay? We have to open the company, we have to people. Grab your rolls, stand back over here. We got people here that need to work. Just stand back by that timer, okay? I went down to see this pretty good 113. She was complaining about neck pain, and we have a hospital as well. I go here, and one doctor in the vehicle. How old are you? 6? What's your name? Lima. Alright, stay tight, okay? Better go home here, okay? Here's your friend underneath the vehicle. Okay. What's another name? Is it a boy? What's his name? Jason? Alright, so Jason's underneath the vehicle. Okay, sit tight for me, okay? Are you in this one? Are you in the other? We're gonna wait until we get someone here and let them come off the street, okay? Sir, can you hear me? Alright, so Jason's still down there, okay? That's your right on the gate. You gotta go that way and go to that gate. You're off the road. Go over there. You gotta go over there. You get out the road. So when you get your legs sprinter, then you get your What was your other friend's name? The boy that's you remember what his name was? First of all, you okay? Do you have any injuries or anything? You good? Okay. Did you hurt anything like that? Do you recall?
Just trying to practice and stop and habits of doing.
What's parents' names?
So we were late to practice, and then, I mean, we were ready to go. I mean, we did a lot of stop time, but I didn't told her to go, because, I mean, most of the time it's fine. But
It's not
this time it's not.
Yeah, it's never fun. We gotta make sure it's not. So when we come back and sit with me, what are your turn things?
Lyle and Dan. Lyle and Dan.
Same last name? Yeah. So get one over.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Sit back over here. Then, students, just so you know, there will be other officers on scene. At this point, I would clear out the driver and passenger and address the issue at hand, which would be the traffic accident, get in contact with your parents. So I'm going to clear from the scene. The fire is going to take over for what they will do. This would subsequently be happening as everything was going on. We kind of split up here for demonstration purposes. So I'll let fire take over from here. Thank you.
So, just to give you guys a little bit of a rundown as what we're going to do as far as the ambulance goes when we come up on something like this. First thing we're going to do is cops always make sure that our scene is safe, make sure there's nothing there that's going to cause us to get hurt or hurt anybody that's working with us. And we're going to come up like you watched with the kids that got hit. We're going to do a very quick assessment outside of the vehicle. And what you're watching these guys do right now is we're putting them on what we call a long backboard or a spine board. This is to make sure that their back stays in a straight line in case there's any injury to the back, so we can try to prevent them from being paralyzed or from worsening any injury that's on their spinal cord right now. If we worsen those injuries on their spinal cord, it can cause things like death, paralysis. They may not be able to use their limbs. These also act like full body splints. So the one little girl had her broken leg. we use that vest style splint that we had. We immobilized her whole body. That's going to keep her leg from moving, so the two bone ends that are broken don't end up actually getting worse, or worse yet, breaking through the skin. The collar that they're putting around their neck is just to hold their necks still, to help prevent that movement. The vertebrae in your neck are very, very important. It's very bad when you hurt those. If they end up moving, that can cause you to stop breathing. It can cut your arteries in your neck. It can cut off blood flow to your brain and cause you to end up being brain dead or have a traumatic brain injury, or like I said, dead. So, all the firemen that are on the fire departments are trained on how to help us put these boards on. All of our EMTs and the paramedics know how to put this stuff on. We practice this regularly when we go to these car accidents. Now that they've got the straps on, they're going to secure the head blocks. Normally they would secure them with head blocks. And that means the patient that they're on this isn't going to be able to move at all. Then we're going to lift the patient on the board, and they're going to go on our stretcher into the ambulance. Once that patient's in the ambulance, we're going to work on doing some other things. We're going to basically cut their pants and their shirt off. We're going to look for any broken bones, any bleeding, blood loss. We're going to stop the bleeding. They're going to put some IVs in them. They're going to put very large needles in their arms or their legs, so we give them a bunch of fluid, especially if there's a lot of blood loss. Our paramedics, if we have to, we can actually do what we call needle decompression if we have to. We're going to poke a needle through their chest to get some extra air out of there. We're going to, if necessary, put a tube in their throat to help them breathe, and we're going to watch their heart rhythm and their vital signs. Then we're going to call the hospital on the radio or on our cell phones. We're going to know what's going to happen. Once you're at the hospital after something like this, we're going to activate what's called the trauma code. That's going to tell the hospital that we have a lot of very bad trauma coming in, something very serious. Anytime you have somebody that died in the vehicle, like the one that the boy did here, we're going to activate that trauma code, and the hospital's going to know to have extra nurses in the emergency room. They may call an extra doctor or provider to the emergency room. They're going to call in clergymen for counseling, especially in the event of a dead child like this. And then they're going to call the helicopter crew and have them in the ER ready to go. So if necessary, we can put that patient right into the helicopter, and they can go to a bigger hospital like Fargo or Minot, Grand Forks, or Bismarck. On occasion, they can go to places like Children's Hospital in South Dakota or regions up in Minneapolis.
Michigan officers get on scene. We are securing the area. We're trying to set up a perimeter, trying to stop traffic. I don't know if you heard me request additional officers on scene to help with traffic control. When I first got here, I did my initial assessment of the individuals on the ground. It was determined that one had a neck injury. Maybe it's just enough to move them. In the event that this was a hazardous area, we may have to move them. Regardless of it may be not what's best for them, we do have to get them out of harm's way if there is potentially, if this was like a three-way situation, we would want to do our best to limit that interaction with oncoming traffic. The process of once we get the people into the vehicle, they go down to the law enforcement center, we contact parents, we release, most likely we get the statement from the passenger will then release to their parent. Eventually, after another conversation with the driver, they would eventually be released, them being a juvenile, but they will be detained, possibly placed under arrest at that point for some charges. Mr. Dimler did discuss with our state's attorney, Bo Cummings, about some of the potential charges that included, but are not limited to, reckless endangerment, negligent homicide, criminal vehicle homicide, assault. There would be possibly 3 cases because 3 people were struck. The 4th one ended up being a fatality. Reckless driving, also citations for overtaking a school bus, which is a thing. I believe it's a $50 citation, so you guys can't be passing school buses. We get reports of that a lot for people in town that are passing school buses that have to stop on and out. Distracted driving, if the investigation would determine whether or not they were distracted in some form or fashion. Possibly a DUI. So in the investigation, if I'm on scene, maybe they weren't coming from practice, maybe it was someone older, I smelled the odor of alcohol, or potentially see some open cans of alcohol in the vehicle that's from a container. The subsequent DUI investigation would be started at that point. drug possession, if there's any drugs or illegal narcotics in the vehicle potentially on their person, discovered after they would have been placed under arrest or they're in plain view in the vehicle, or an odor of marijuana or something along those lines. If at any point there was an odor of marijuana detected, we do have what we call drug recognition experts on our department that can come do additional testing, and they can determine whether or not you are impaired based on the testings that they do, whether it's marijuana or prescription medication, things along that line. It's referenced that there may be civil penalties associated with this. And like Mr. Bierman said, clergy would be informed to get services provided to those affected, because this would be a very traumatic experience for those involved. But we as a small community, this would be a very jarring experience for the entire community, because they would, in some aspect, they would probably know the victims in some capacity. So this would be a very serious thing that's very easily avoided by paying attention when you're driving, staying off your cell phones, and just knowing the rules and regulations of the roadway when you're operating a motor vehicle. If you see a stop sign, you should stop. If you see a yield sign, you should make sure you know that nothing's coming in an opposite direction where you're about to turn or operate your vehicle. Because stuff like this, it does happen there. That's why Mr. Dillon put this on today, to give you guys an educational opportunity here today. And I'll pass it over to Mr. Dillon.
All right. So, like Officer Hammond said, when Officer Dallas and I were coming up with ideas on what to do, he said that this is something he's seeing a lot. People, not just students, but people in general, passing school buses. And you can see how quickly one innocent decision, like Caroline said, normally it's okay, right? Never a big deal until it is. Okay? I remember back when I was sitting where you guys were, we had one of our classmates pass a school bus. That was 20 years ago. It's still an issue. Okay? So, the other thing, like Officer Henton said, being in a small community, and when we're responding to these accidents, chances are we're probably going to know these people, right? My daughter, Darren's daughter, Brandon's son. These are our kids now that are crossing the streets, okay, that your guys' decisions are going to affect us. So just put yourself in our shoes. That page goes out, we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know who the victims are. We show up, it's our kids. Okay? I've flown air ambulance for 6 years. Okay? I've flown friends where I've held their hand all the way to Grand Forks. Okay? I've flown your guys' classmates. Okay? This stuff is real, it happens, we see it on a daily basis. Mr. Bierman did up here as a paramedic for, 13-ish years? Okay? He can tell you story after story after story. Okay? There's all sorts of tragic stories about what happens on prom weeks. Okay? So, think about the decisions you're going to make this week. Think about the decisions you're going to make next week. Okay? And how they're not only affecting you, but everyone else around you. Okay? Like Officer Henry said, I went and talked to Bo Cummings, and that was just off the top of his head, the charges that he could get you guys on. The criminal vehicle homicide is 20 years in prison on that one charge alone. Okay? Our governor has just proclaimed that April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. So I'm going to read his proclamation to you quick. It says, whereas vehicle crashes are the #1 cause of preventable death in North Dakota, and distracted driving is one of the fastest growing safety issues on the road today. And whereas distracted drivers aren't just a threat to themselves, they are a danger to everyone on the road, making distraction a contributing factor in most motor vehicle crashes and near crashes. And whereas nationally, distracted driving causes more than 1 million crashes, costing the lives of thousands of motorists every year. And whereas Vision Zero is a statewide strategy to reduce motor vehicle crashes, fatalities, and serious injuries on North Dakota roads through state agencies, public and private sector partners. And whereas education efforts with Vision Zero partners such as the North Dakota Safety Council, among others, bring awareness to North Dakota drivers about the dangers of distracted driving in order to reduce the prevalence on our roads. And whereas North Dakotans are encouraged to take personal responsibility behind the wheel and always drive distraction-free to reach the goal of zero fatalities, because when it comes to your life or the lives of your family and friends, zero fatalities is the only acceptable number. Now, therefore, as Governor of the state of North Dakota, I do hereby proclaim April 2022 Distracted Driving Awareness Month in the state of North Dakota. Okay? So like I said, this is real, this happens. Okay? Enough for the governor to proclaim this entire month, okay, Distracted Driving Month. Okay? Caroline said, hey, I told her to do it. Okay? Allie listened. Got a distraction. Okay? Cell phones, music, okay? Anything is considered distracting driving. Okay?
Just so some of you aren't sitting up there being, well, I'm only 16, I'm not going to get 20 years because I'm a juvenile. The court system does have the discretion to charge you as an adult when stuff like this happens. So just think, because you're a juvenile does not mean you're only going to be referred to juvenile court. The judge does have discretion to charge you guys as an adult if he feels it meets that level. All right, so just be safe out there when you're driving. Make good decisions, and just know you're not the only ones on the roadway. Okay. Other than that, have a better rest of your day, and thank you for your time.